Immortal Dominion is a heavy metal band from Fort Collins, Colorado, who have been around since 1992. Join Mark Lewis and R.O.A. for an exclusive interview with Brian Villers, guitarist and vocals from Immortal Dominion.
You found rockonamerica.live. We're bringing rock and roll to America and beyond. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe.
Immerse yourself in the pulsating rhythms of Immortal Dominion, a Colorado-based heavy metal powerhouse. Established in 1995, they've redefined the local scene, paving the way for upcoming bands. Their music, blending death, groove, and thrash metal, offers a distinct auditory journey. With screams, growls, and melodies from different vocals, they've earned a reputation for being captivating. Westward Magazine praised them as creators of the most brutal metal Colorado has ever seen, while Metal Maniacs predicted their potential to reach astounding heights. The band is made up of Brian Villers, Ray Smith, Brian Edward Schmidt, Louis Micciullo, and Casey Glass, each contributing their unique talents to their sound. Brace yourself for the explosive sound of Immortal Dominion.
Hi, this is Mark with Rock Over America, and today I have an interview. A band that's a bit newer on the scene, and without further ado, this is Brian from, and I'm going to let you give the name of the band. I'll give you the honor of giving the name of the band and introducing everybody and the name of the new album.
Alright, hey, this is Brian Villers with Immortal Dominion, and our new album is called Primordial.
And Brian, introduce everybody in the band.
Okay, so we have Louis Micciullo on lead guitar, Ray Smith on lead vocals, Casey Glass on drums, and Ed Schmidt on bass guitar, and myself on Brian Villers on rhythm guitar and backing vocals.
Okay, and let's start with you going back to the beginning. What were your musical influences growing up?
Well, I have a funny story of when I was a kid. My mom belonged to the Columbia Tape Club, and they would send her tapes that she didn't want, but she wouldn't return them in time, so she had to keep them. And she took Kiss Love Gun in my toy box when I was probably about 4 or 5 years old, and I wore that tape out, so I'd have to say Kiss was my earliest influence, and I remember dressing up like Peter Criss when I was 6, 7 years old, so
that's
I didn't
awesome.
take that far.
That's awesome. I was in that thing years ago. I think everybody was at one point.
Right.
It's a little scary, and that kind of age-states me a little bit, too. I'm 44, so that they still had that when I was growing up. But what other musical influences did you have growing up? What else were you listening to?
I always really liked, I think when I was young, my first album I bought was Michael Jackson's Thriller. I remember listening to a lot of that. I loved Prince as I got younger, and then I got introduced to bands like Twisted Sister, Quiet Riot, and all of that stuff that started coming out when MTV started hitting big. And from then on out, it was just full on cock rock into thrash metal into death metal, and then whatever the frontier holds. So
I gotta ask you,
natural evolution.
What was the Twisted Sister video? I gotta ask you that. What was the Twisted Sister video? As far as the song that you heard?
I think it was the one. I remember We're Not Gonna Take It, but the one I really remember is when the dad's all spitting in his face saying, "What are you gonna do with your life?" And he says, "I want to rock," and the dude's sliding out the window. I think from then on out, I was hooked.
That's We're Not Gonna Take It.
Yeah, that was a great video.
Yeah, that was the thing that got me into them too, and then I went backwards and got You Can't Stop Rock and Roll and found the original 5,000 copy thing or whatever it was, and from there forward. So and they were a great band too. A lot of people like to joke about this, but they really were a great band and very musically talented.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so, what was the one or maybe two things that made you decide that this is what you wanted to do? You wanted to be a musician. You wanted to play in a band. You wanted to do this for a career. That this just wasn't, something you were going to do for fun.
Well, I think when I started listening to that Kiss album way back when I was a kid, I started writing songs, and for the very first time I knew how to write, I started writing on scratch paper different choruses and different verses and just lyrics and stuff like that, and I just knew I wanted to write songs and didn't know how I wanted to do it. And I think when I got to be in, middle school or so, I started picking up the guitar and wanted to it just became, while all the other kids are playing video games and playing sports and doing whatever, I sat in my room and tried to learn every song I could and learn from every, take lessons from anybody in school that I thought even knew something I didn't and stuff like that. So I think it's from a very young age, it was what I was more interested in.
Okay, and what made you decide to put this band together? And first of all, where does the name come from?
The name Immortal Dominion comes from our lead singer, Ray, and a friend of his mother just sitting, when they were coming up with a band name, opening up the dictionary, looking through words until they found something that they really liked. And so the name Immortal Dominion literally just comes from the dictionary, from going through a whole bunch of words that he thought were really cool sounding a long time ago. Our band, we started back in, I would say 1993, 94, and Ray and I were roommates right out of high school and just started writing songs together, mostly for my performance art class at a community college. And then he just joined the band, and they wanted me in as a guitar player, so Immortal Dominion was born back in about 1993 or so.
And is this the first or the second album? I couldn't find that much on you guys out there. There was a press release, and I went through that, and like some of the stuff I told you that was going on. So, but there wasn't a lot that I really found for a really, really in-depth history. So for me and everybody else, is this the first album? Is this the second album that you guys have out?
Our first album came out in 1998. It was called Endure. We recorded it at the Blasting Room here in Fort Collins, which is mostly known for a bunch of big punk bands like Rise Against and Buster Plug and bands like that. But we recorded our first couple albums, or a couple CDs there. One was an EP, and one was the album Endure. We put out a second EP somewhere in between there, and then our album Awakening came out in 2005.
Okay.
And so that's the album that we landed 5 songs on an independent film called Keith. And from there, we ended up just landing some more interest in us and a good producer to make this new album.
So this is really, the new album is really the first big thing that you guys really had. It's like the big break, if you will.
Yeah, it's the first time we've had a real, a big time producer that came in and really helped us write with writing and lyrics and the whole 9 yards. It's the first real big production we've ever done. It's always been kind of in a hurry, scraping up money to go to the studio kind of thing before.
No, I understand that, and I've had a lot of friends that are musicians, big scale and small scale, and I've heard all the stories, and I've seen all the scraping together and everything. Let me ask you this question, because you guys started in 93, and back then, that's when grunge was just starting to come in, and metal, everybody thought was pretty much dying. And you guys, that's kind of the time frame where I said it kind of, musically, it got really strange. Because between 94 and about 2004, the only big person really had sang part of their outlasting anybody was Eminem, and I'm going, wait a second, this has never happened musically. We had disco, we had Motown, we had the psychedelic era, we had the hair band era, we got one guy, solid lasting everybody, and it was, everything from the grunge came up and dropped, the boy bands came up and dropped, everything's floating around like Chumbawamba and all this stuff coming out of Lost Fields, and it's like, wait a second, where's the rock and where's this and where's that and you know what I'm saying? So you guys actually kind of went through all that. And do you have any memories of that or kind of thoughts of where you're at from when you started to now? Because in the last couple years with bands like Theory and Burn Halo and Black Tide and Red and 2 Cents and a whole bunch of other bands that have come up recently and have really taken hold of the rock scene, if you will. It's like music came back again and it's fun again now, too. So, do you have any thoughts kind of looking back to when you guys were first started struggling and now?
Yeah, I think, I remember the biggest thing I remember from the grunge era was all of a sudden there were no rules, and all of a sudden the Fear Factory's putting out an album with no guitar solos. And that kind of, it seeped into the metal. And I've told people a few times that it seems like music has come full circle. And now you've got bands like Avenged Sevenfold and all these bands that, people can say what they want about them. These are some technical musicians, really great drummers in every band from, Disturbed to as underground as you want to get. And it seems like nowadays you can't even have a chance of gaining any respect without getting out there with a technical professional drummer and having really great technical solos. And back then you could just make noises and do whatever you wanted to, it seems like. So that's been a pretty big adjustment. We've brought in a new drummer who's a real technical sounding drummer, and we who's just known for that, for stepping up with more technical solos, and I mean, just all in general, the music itself has gotten better and higher quality, I think, since back then.
I think too, it's kind of, and you're kind of saying the same thing. Let me throw this one out there. I think since about 2008, it's kind of going back to the old formula, old school, in the sense that you have the guitar intro, basically, if you will, and kind of take this as a general statement. 3 verses, the chorus, the guitar solo, and the guitar outro. It was kind of the same standard formula going back to the 50s. It wasn't necessarily we're doing 2-minute songs and our 2.5-minute songs, but I mean, it's that same formula that everybody from Bill Haley to the Doors to Twisted Sister to even Slayer and Metallica have all had it. You know, that kind of thing where back in the mid-late 90s up to the early mid-2000s, it's like, wait a second, some of the song structures gotten really strange. Things for a while got really anti-melodic, and it was just like you're saying, there's no rules. So, I've seen people my age, 44 down to, and older than me, down to little kids 8 years old, and everybody seems, one thing that's kind of true again is everybody seems to really like the music again.
Right. Right. You know, maybe that's partially due to the, you know, the kind of the downfall of the CD and the downfall of really being able to share music also is positive as well as negative. You know, you have to find a creative way to make money now, but at the same time, everyone gets to hear your music.
Yeah, and I think it's also when you have a good band like you guys are just really, really great. The album is really, really wonderful. And when you have good songwriting, good composition, great musicianship, and you have some melody in there, because even Slayer has melody in there in a sense. You know, if you have that, it's like, you know, I think that really kind of helps things too. You know, and you have that, you know, it's kind of gone from, you know, I really hate my life and I hate myself to, you know, we can talk about bad relationships and things like that, but there's somewhere along the lines there's a fun song on there too, and it's not like, God, life's that depressing?
Right.
You know, and
exactly.
Yeah, so let's talk about the new album, and let's go through it song by song really quick, if that's okay.
Okay.
And just before we do that, can you give everybody the kind of an idea of how the songwriting process goes? Now, some bands have a set formula where, like, example, I like to use Metallica. When Cliff Burton was alive, they always basically, it started with the rhythm section. And it was Cliff and it was Lars. And that's kind of where everything was, that was creative power, the formula. And then after Cliff Burton had unfortunately passed, when they did Injustice for All from then on, they started doing with the guitars first. And they figured it out from there. But then you have some bands that'll be like, well, you know, I had this line come to me, or I heard this drum beat, or, you know, there's this bass line or the guitar line. So every song is different. So do you guys have a set formula, or is it just kind of every song takes on its own life?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say we have a set formula. Our lead singer, Ray, he has been our lead singer and guitarist for 10 years, and has decided, since his vocals are a little bit more complicated on the new album, that he would like to just do vocals, just be a front man on stage. So that's why we brought in the new guitar player, and also he can play better solos than both of us, the new guy. So, but as far as the songwriting method, most of the time I'll have a chorus in my head. We write sometimes lyrics first. We used to in the old days, you know, we'd write a song and then I'd write some lyrics and we'd try to cram them together. And I've learned lately that it's a lot more organic. If either the melody of the lyrics helps write the guitar riff, or if I hear a guitar riff phrase written and I just hear maybe not even exact words, but just sounds of vocals in my head, then I can make the lyrics fit into the chorus better. And I think that's just some maturity we've done in songwriting. So, you know, but for the most part, Ray, our lead singer, probably writes 80% of our music and always has, and he's just a great riff writer. And he'll usually come in with a finished song, and then we'll toss everything else on it. And then we like to give it some time to grow. You know, we're not the type of band that's going to go into the studio and just start writing when we get there. I don't even know how they could do that. With us, we like to take a song like that, and that's the backbone of the song. And we like to let it kind of grow and change and add details and, you know, just kind of mature itself before we even try to record it.
Well, I think it depends if you have a really big production budget and if you have a lot of time in the studio. You can go everywhere from that and just have the leeway and the ability to write, as opposed to, like, a great example of one of the great first albums that was ever done was a blues band out of Chicago called Lola and the Blues Imperials, and they got signed to the record label, and they had 1 weekend to do the album. They just went and played it live. They already had everything set what they want to do. So I think it just kind of depends on what your budget is and everything. But, you know, a lot of times it's when you go in there and you don't have a lot of time and a lot of money. Gentleman who'd actually played with Buddy Miles had actually said this to me. He goes, you know, Mark, it doesn't matter what you do. Sometimes the best albums are the ones that are done on a smaller budget that they just record quicker.
Right.
So, and you guys apparently did something well with the new album, so let's get into it. I'm going to let you introduce it again, and I'm going to let you take us track by track through the album, and then we'll finish this up here in a few minutes.
Okay. So the name of our new album is Primordial by Immortal Dominion. The first song is called Deity Definer.
Okay.
And that song actually is one of those things where you hear about a band, and I never thought it would happen to us, but you hear about a band like Iron Butterfly writing And God Is Defeated by Accident or it's a joke song. This song was definitely a joke song. I have a song that's going to be on our next album, didn't even make this album, where the chord progressions of the song were the slow riff, the power riff, the dream riff, which was the chorus, because the song's called Dream in Color, and slow power dream, and then hammer riff. And so slow power dream hammer became the beginning of Deity Definer, because we were just joking around one night and we played the riff and somebody screamed out the vocals that were actually was actually the song that we were trying to learn. And so Deity Definer started out as a joke, but it became everybody's favorite on the album. And we have a guest solo on there by a great local guitarist here from Colorado named Dave Beagle. And so it's a really great song, and it turned out really professional. And we learned that you can be simple and not cram 8 riffs into a song and still have something that people really like. So
cool.
That's the first song.
Okay, I'm just going to let you take us through this because I have a tendency, if you haven't figured this out yet, to sometimes talk too much, so
okay.
Not to do that.
I'll just kind of give you a couple sentences for each song then.
Okay.
Second song is Become Wise. I think it's really cool. We went into the studio with, it was kind of a death metal song leading into kind of a catchy groove, King's X type song. And they felt that it was a little too diverse and that people were missing the end of the song because the beginning of the song was so extreme. So we kind of rewrote it with Sterling Whitfield, our producer, who came out here from Texas. He produced Pantera and Hell Yeah and Merciful Fate and a bunch of people like that. And he kind of helped us rewrite the song, turn it into something that he felt was something the listener could understand better. And it came out just being the second song on our album was probably one of the tighter tracks that we came up with. Next song is Retroactive, which is a song completely written by lead singer Ray, and it's kind of a song that reminds me of the same kind of series, I Always Feel Like Somebody's Watching Me, that 80s song.
Oh yeah, by Rockwell, yeah, with Michael Jackson on it.
Yeah. It's kind of like that type of song. It's just, Ray's thing about them sending satellites up in the air and having Google come take pictures of all of our houses, and how you really just can't hide from the internet or anything anymore. And it's just a paranoia of who's paying for all this and why are we paying people to spy on us, basically.
Yeah, it's actually it's kind of scary too in one sense. I mean, I'm not a paranoid person or anything, but it's really kind of a scary thought. It's like, why are they taking a picture of my house or where I work at or anything else? It's not that exciting.
Right. Yeah, how do they take everyone's picture? There's millions and millions of houses. It's unbelievable.
Exactly. Let alone they can pinpoint you with a satellite within. I mean, I have OnStar in my car, and the great thing is they can unlock my car, no problem if I lock the keys in there. And they can pinpoint it within 2 seconds and shut it down if it gets stolen. But on the other point, you have the same technology. They can actually hear a mouse. Let me put it this way to be delicate. They can actually make out a mouse that digests the problems.
Right.
2 inches of it. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
It is great. So, that's basically the by that song. Real catchy choruses again. Hindsight's our first sort of a ballad on the song, and it's dealing with the tragedy we went through. It's just a long story short, our old bass player came back from Iraq, and he was married to my sister-in-law. He came back from Iraq, and his mind wasn't quite right, and he ended up killing her and killing himself. And it was this hindsight just kind of about me wishing that I had maybe done things differently and done things that I could have changed potentially that could have changed that outcome, but then in the end you realize you really couldn't have was on our 1996 EP, Birth, which at every show we play, I still have somebody come up and tell me they wore theirs out and they want another one. It's that situation where we waited and banged it out in 3 days and people still love it to this day. But Reanimate never made it on an album, so we kind of rewrote it with our new musicians and new style and everything like that, and added some solos to it and slowed the parts down and just kind of almost covered ourselves and remade one of our old songs. The song Beam starts off with a great guitar solo and has a real catchy hook to it. It's kind of a, I don't know, it's a hard song to describe, but real groovy tune. You is a slow, kind of sludgy song, just about an inward perspective of just looking into yourself and who you are. And then we end the album with a trio of pretty heavy tunes. Off My Chest is a pretty death metal-y, heavy vocal song, vocally driven. Empower is kind of similar, kind of an old sludgy Morbid Angel. They did that Domination album type song.
Right.
And then we end up with kind of an epic song called Thrice that lasts, I think, with the outro almost 8.5 minutes. And we kind of saved that for the end of the album and figure if anybody makes it all the way through the album, they can kind of check that out if they want to.
Do you mind if I ask you two really quick questions?
No problem.
What is your favorite song on the album?
I would have to say Become Alive is my favorite song on the album. It has a real cool, I don't know, I want to say like a, I'm trying to think of those bands back in the 70s that kind of mixed hard rock with some cool groove and jazz. It kind of has sort of that feel to it. It has a real groovy feel to it. Ray did a really good job on it.
Well, and this is the question, because I don't know if I totally classify you guys as death metal, but you guys are very, very heavy. And here's the big question. Do you think, because you know about the Big Four that just happened this past year, right, where it was Metallica and Slayer and Anthrax, and at one point Testament was on it, but then Megadeth?
Yep.
And, they just did really, really well. It took years and years, as we both know, and a lot of other people that are going to be listening to this know, for Slayer to get where they at. And Slayer are just, I don't know if I would say they're quite as huge as Metallica, but they're really huge now. And it took them a long, long time to get there. Do you think that a band like that in particular, because not so much bands like Morbid and Cannibal and Obituary and stuff like that, because I lived down in Florida for a while, which is, of course, the capital for death metal, and it seems like Albuquerque is kind of like the junior capital for death metal, but a band like Slayer in particular, who just stuck to their guns and never quit, and have now just evolved in this gigantic phenomenon, if you will, do you think that in particular, and that band in particular, helped to open the doorway for you guys in some way?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, you look at periods of time where if anybody growled or yelled at all, that had to, because, the Beatles were offending people when they came out, and that sounds very mild nowadays. So I think overall, the more people, Slayers and Cannibal Corpse being in that Jim Carrey movie, Ace Ventura, things like that, society as a whole is not as offended by it, and when that happens, I think you open up more of the people who would be into it to listen to it. I think overall, it just kind of opens everyone's up. I don't know what you just call it. Their eyes for that kind of stuff.
Kind of their eyes and the hearts of their musical ears, if you will?
Sure. As a society, it kind of just moves the whole thing back a little bit and makes it more appropriate, more acceptable to more people, wider audience, I think.
I don't know if you've ever been asked this, but just before we promote everything and wrap this up, is there anything that you've ever wanted to have the opportunity to say to people out there, in particular about the band that you just, as they start to get into Immortal Dominion, and even if they pick up the new album, Primordial, and they just look at everything, or they pick up and get a hold of older stuff that you guys have, is there anything that you've ever wanted to say that you were never given an opportunity that you just like people to really know about the band?
That's a good question. No, just that we've been a hard-working band for a long time, almost 16 years now, and I think it's taken that long for us to mature into who we need to be to take this next step. I would not have wanted to go on a national level maybe 10 years ago, because I think I can see the point of maturing as long as you can until you have something you can be really proud of to take to the nation. So yeah, we've been a local band for a long time, but we're proud of that, and we're proud of being from Colorado. We have a lot of great bands coming out of Colorado right now, touring nationwide. Thrashy bands and heavy bands there's a band from our town in Fort Collins, Colorado that just signed a Metal Blade, and another band, Arcadium from Fort Collins, Colorado, just toured with Megadeth. And there's a vibrant scene up here in Colorado that most people would never guess because it's not, there's no major cities next to us. And so we've had a long time to just sit here and brew, and there's dozens of bands out here that would shock the world.
Cool.
And so we're proud to be from the scene.
Cool. And what do you guys have plans now that we go into the little, what I like to call the shameless plug corner, the little promotional area? What do you guys have planned for this year as far as touring? And you said a new album was coming up. Do you have a working title for that at all? And do you have an idea when that may be released?
No, those are all just songs in the works. We're kind of focusing on this album right now. It's going to come out on March 22nd.
Okay.
Right now, we're going to do a CD release party here locally at the Yankee Theater in Fort Collins, Colorado on April 2nd. We'll be playing the Vapor Fest at the Summit Music Hall down in Denver with Cephalic Carnage and a bunch of other bands on March 20th. And then we're doing the Fort Collins Music Experiment, I believe, on February 9th, which is a big festival that goes on every year up here where they have literally hundreds of bands for one price ticket, and they the local buses bus everybody around to all the different venues. And so you can see every style of music you can imagine.
Oh, nice.
Just that. It's a great festival. It's like the fourth year that they've done it, and it's starting to really gain some steam. So it's been really fun the last few years because you get to play in front of people who buy a ticket to go see a whole bunch of bands, and they might not buy a ticket just to come see you. So that's really cool. And then after that, we are in talks, nothing confirmed yet, with a couple of the nationwide tours to hopefully be on a second stage or something like that.
Are we talking like, along, without saying what it is, along the lines of stuff like the Ozfest things in the past and bands worked and stuff like that?
Yeah, more on the metal side of that.
Okay.
So yeah, we got some stuff going on with that, but nothing confirmed. And so we plan on playing that through the summer and see how well this does on the album does on college radio, as well as hopefully some airplay on some of the commercial stations.
What about satellite radio?
Yeah, that's I know we've got some PR getting that real hard. So that seems to be not only satellite radio, but even Pandora and stuff like that seems to be a real good avenue to go down to get people to hear your music nowadays, for sure. So we'll be hitting Sirius and XM.
Okay,
I'm not sure which, it'll be like the Octane or the...
I have a feeling it'll be an Octane or Liquid Metal, probably.
Right. So I know that there'll be some airplay on there.
Yeah, I have XM, so yeah, it's probably Octane or Liquid Metal.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of in the middle of the two stations global, so we'll see which songs they pick and where they go.
Yeah, well, they some of the bands that they have on there will float between both stations, too.
Cool.
Yeah. And let's do this. MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, band website, whatever you have, go ahead and promote that.
Okay. Let's see. So we have our website is immortaldominion.net. You go to MySpace/Immortal Dominion, Facebook/Immortal Dominion, and on Twitter, I'm not a big Twitter guy. I believe it's
Can they find it?
Something like that.
Can they find it from the website?
Definitely. Yeah, it's all up there. So that's no problem. And so those are all the websites.
And let me see if I got this right again. The album did you say it was Primordial was breaking in April or May? Or March?
March 22nd. It'll be nationwide on Amazon and iTunes and all that stuff. And so yeah, March 22nd.
Okay, and I'm going to let you take us out of here and hang on the phone for 1 second. We're done because I want to say thank you, and I really do appreciate this, by the way.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
No problem, man. Take us out of here. What I like to do with this is give everybody that interviews the opportunity to say anything they like to anybody. So whether it's, I've had people say I love you to family members, hi to bandmates, words of wisdom, thank you to fans. So this is where I'm not going to say anything, and I'm going to let you take us out of here.
All right. Well, yeah, definitely, I want to thank my wife, Jenny, for always being supportive of the band for over 16 years now. And all of our wives and families and all those are all the missing pieces that people don't see in bands are the wives who go and they watch the kids and they do the stuff and they take care of the house while we're all out doing our thing. And heck, they they come up with extra money to help support us, and it's the women behind the men are really what drives rock and roll. We're thankful for our executive producer, Sponsor Bailey, and Brian Bonneville from 427 Records, backing us up on this album. Sterling Winfield is the producer. Everybody should go check him out on Facebook and any bands. He can work with just about any budget. He's a great producer. So go check him out. Everybody please go to our MySpace. Go check out some new songs. Go to our website, immortaldominion.net. And keep an eye out for us because we'll be all over the place here this summer, hopefully. So thank you very much.
Now I want to say thank you. I'm going to say interview over.